So she gets arrested. After the trial, she gets convicted to 1 count of conspiracy to manufacture, import into the United States, and distribute cocaine. Did you get 15 years or 35 years at that point?
I think it was 45 or 48, but by the old laws, you only had to do half of your time.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So now, for the first time, your mom gets sent to prison.
New York.
What was that like? Now you don't have either one of your parents.
Yeah. I have my brothers, but now my brothers, well, if you read my book, My Mother the Godmother, when she gets arrested in those couple hours, they take me to an orphanage here in LA. It was the biggest orphanage in LA County at the time. And that shit to me was like prison. Like, you're walking in, there's barbed wire, there's pods, and these people are guiding you. And I was there in that orphanage for 3 to 6 months as an orphan. And I remember that it was so mind-boggling for me because I didn't get it. Right. I'm like, what are y'all doing here? And
you went from this millionaire kid to being at the bottom now.
Yeah, and my mother sends a lady to come get me. She's a Kingpin also.
Gloria?
Yeah. I mean, it's public record. I don't want to say her name, but yeah.
Yeah.
And good lady, and I'm grateful for everything she did for me. And we're in Queens, New York. She picks me up as my auntie, and I'm like, who are you? She's like, I'm your auntie. And I'm like, say the code word, say the secret word so I know you are. And she's like, hey, this, and that. And I'm like, oh, mi gordita. And I'm like, tia. She goes, Michael, choose your toy, whatever, and we're going to New York to see your mom. And then this was 85, 86. And then we make it to New York City. And then the very next day, I go to see my mom, and I was happy. I still hadn't seen my brothers because they were scrambling. I think the indictment had already come down on them, but they were cowboys. They didn't give a fuck. They were running California, man, like if it was Medellin. It was crazy how they would, from the Bay Area to LA, from the Bay to LA, and it was thousands of kilos for them. So they were on top of the world. They never thought they were gonna get caught, and if they did, they were gonna go out how they were taught to go out. But visited my mom in the Fed building in New York City, and my mom is telling me it's college.
College.
Yeah, la universidad, they call it. And, I mean, it's a criminal thing that like, the day will come that you might have to go to college to sit down and learn something. And she would tell me, no, it's a hospital, but it's a college. And at the age of 6 years old, I was already way advanced. And I'm like, Mommy, don't lie to me anymore. I know these are the feds, and I know shit hit the fan.
So at this point, for the next, I guess, few years, you're kind of getting shuffled from
New
family
York,
to family,
LA,
person
Miami.
to person. You would show up and, hey, listen, I'm going to pay all your rent.
Yeah.
Essentially, and I'm going to live with you. And
well, that at that age, that had already happened. That's how it was. But they would pay everything. And then in my later years, I guess at the age of 12, 13, I coerced everybody I lived with.
Right.
Yeah.
And your brothers are also going to prison now.
Yeah, so before they get locked up, my brother Dixon visits me in New York. He actually puts on like a costume and goes to see my mother's trial. And if, I don't want to say no names, but if you see certain movies or series of certain people that told on my mom, they had plastic surgery. And my brother would tell me, he goes, bro, I didn't even recognize the bitch. And I grew up with the bitch. And she was sitting right next to me. And when they asked her for her testimony, she gets up. And I was like, oh my God. She was right next to me the whole time. He didn't even recognize her. And my brother tells me, look, you're about to be 7 years old. You kind of know what's going on. Yeah, we can't see mommy. But I'll give you these handwritten messages and these verbal messages that you have to go tell mommy every visit. But I got to go back to Cali. And I'm like, no, I want to go back to California with you. So I guess it got too complicated for that lady because she was doing her thing too. And I go back to LA. And that was right before 1986. And the house that I'm living at is the house that they got caught at because of coming to visit me. Well, not Chiqui. Chiqui's in the mansion when the feds rush him, and they shoot it out.
Wow. Right. I remember, I think in the book you said that Oswaldo would always tell you that your mother, your father, and your brothers never wanted you to be a drug trafficker.
Never.
They were trying to keep you away from everything, but they were full-blown into it.
It's funny because they would say that, but then Chiqui taught me how to load a gun at the age of 4, you know, and he would show me everything. He wouldn't hide it from me because I think we only had that gap of 9 years. So he was a lot more honest with me. My brother Dixon would try to hide it. Hey, don't play with guns. Watch He-Man, all that. But Chiqui would straight up tell me, look, what are you going to do with your life? They don't want you in it, but it looks like you know what we do. Yeah. All right. This is how I do it.
Right. And in 1989, your brother Oswaldo ended up being in a cell with Rayful Edmond.
Yeah.
And Rayful was essentially one of the kingpins of Washington, D.C.
He was the biggest
Yeah.
Black American drug dealer in the country at the time.
Yeah. And later on became a snitch.
Yeah, he later on dropped it on people. They said he was going to drop it on my brother. But from what I understand, he didn't fully drop it. But then other people say that, yeah, my brother was about to get extradited for, I think it was 800 kilos.
Right. I think he's still locked up, actually.
And I think he was released and he's
Was he
under
released?
federal protection program. Yeah.
Okay, he's in witness protection then. I guess that makes more sense. Okay. So at one point, your brothers are getting out. Uber gets out. He gets deported straight back to Colombia.
First Uwid gets deported to Colombia, and then my brother Dixon gets released here in California.
Yeah.
He gets released in, he ends up coming to live with me. I pick him up at the airport, San Jose. I have to jump on a plane from San Jose to LA to come pick up 50 stacks to place his bond with my legal guardian. But she's not a criminal, but I know my criminal antics. So I jump on the plane here, and it was during the Rodney King riots. Mm-hmm. And I remember being on the plane with that lady and looking down as we're flying into LA and seeing the whole city on fire. And she was like, she starts shaking. She goes, we're going down to that? And I go, bitch, don't worry. We're getting picked up on my brother's goons and by his girlfriend. And El Güero, which was a Mexican dude from Sinaloa, him and his homeboy Danny, que era a Colombian kid that was like one of my brother's do-boys, they pick us up at the airport with another car. And to this day, I remember it was a Blue Regal. And we go to my brother's girlfriend's house while the riots are going on, and they're counting money there. And they had separated my little 50K in a box, but I kid you not that on the table there was probably at least a couple mil.
Right. So the rest of your brothers are getting deported back to Colombia.
Yeah, my brother Dixon, he's on parole in California. We place his bond. He bonds out. He's on parole. Parole board won't let him ball till you fall. He wants to be a dental assistant, but they want him working a 9 to 5 at a fabric company or something like that. And then he just gets fed up with being a regular person. And he's like, look, I'm going to leave. You want to stay here in Morgan Hill? And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather stay here and be an American kid. And he's like, all right, I'm going to call my cousin. She's going to come take care of you. This is where we stash all the money. See you in summer. And it was just like that. I go to summertime, back to Colombia. By that time, my brother Chiqui was a capo again.